Hi SALT users, this is Joelle from SALT Software. In this video we're going to be going over elicitation protocols, and we've broken this down by kind of age and grade level. So this video is going to focus on pre-K through 6th grade. So if you work with those age children, this is the place for you. We're going to talk about different elicitation contexts that have a SALT reference database for you to compare. So we're going to be going over how to collect a play-based sample, conversational, narratives, and expository samples. Let's quickly review some tips for how to collect a really robust and valid sample. Our first tip is to make sure that you're reviewing the protocols and that you're familiar with how to collect a sample. So what you want to do, if you think about how you have to administer a standardized test, you have to follow that administration protocol very closely so your results can be compared to your standardized data set. So it's the same theory with language samples. So you want to collect your sample the same way in which we collected them for our SALT reference databases to make sure that you have a valid comparison. So it's important that you're collecting the samples in the similar fashion in which they were collected for the database. You also really want to make sure that you're collecting a sample that's age appropriate. So we've broken this down by grade. That's kind of the best way to approach it. So you don't want to give the kindergarten student the book that is for the 5th grader. It's going to be too overwhelming. There's definitely a protocol and age-appropriate book, for example. And you also want to have your materials ready to go, and it just makes for a quick, seamless language sample. The second tip is to not be afraid of that awkward pause. Just wait kids out. We always feel this need to kind of insert ourselves and fill those awkward pauses, but just embrace it. And this can help with just letting the student kind of work through. Like, that's clinical information. If they're having long pauses because they're having word finding difficulties or utterance formulation, that's what we want to get at. So you just want to be really encouraging and an active listener. This is especially true if you're collecting retail samples. You really want minimal clinician input in those. It should just be encouragement and active listening. Of course, with conversation and play, you're interacting a lot more. But again, don't be afraid of those pauses. And also just kind of think about what clinical questions you want to answer. Are you looking at someone who possibly has social pragmatic difficulties and you really need to look at that volume of back and forth in a conversation? You'd probably want to do a conversational sample. If you're looking at narrative skills, maybe you want to figure out if they're able to tell narratives as they're so embedded in curriculum and in the Common Core state standards. So just think of what questions you want to answer. And if you need more information, there's lots of information on these elicitation protocols, and the URL is there. So saltsoftware.com/resources/databases. Okay, so let's go into preschool. So basically, the preschool samples are going to be conversational. We consider them play-based samples. So this is the best, most developmentally appropriate way to get a language sample. So our database goes from 2 years, 8 months to 5 years, 8 months. So you can collect it yourself, or if you kind of go through how to collect the sample with a caregiver, sometimes kids who are more hesitant with the unfamiliar clinician, if you're first meeting the child, that may work out better to have the parent do it. You really want to adjust to meet the child's need. And they're also very culturally responsive. It can be very child-led. You may want to consider videotaping these if you want to capture those non-verbal communication skills. A lot of times at that age, maybe they're doing kind of the point and grunt, for example, if they're a late talker. So you may consider videotaping that. Also, with the preschool conversational samples, you're really looking at the social aspects of communication. How are they interacting with you? This can be great for our late talkers, children on ASD spectrum, or developmental delay. Some tips for this is to have kind of manipulative, so this little picture of the farm set, toys like that work really well. Something that you can focus your attention on, and maybe you're going to be the voice of the sheep or the farmer in this setup. It's easier to talk as a character instead of directly talking with the student. So that can be really nice. Fisher-Price sets, we've done castle sets, farm sets, car wash sets, those type of thing. Also just follow the child's lead, be patient with the pauses, and limit questions. It shouldn't feel like a quiz, so really limited questions. And sometimes with those really young kids, they're hard to understand, so you may want to gloss gloss their speech if needed. So I remember taking a sample and the child would say like fee instead of 3. So a transcriber might not know that, fee is actually 3. So if you need to, just gloss. Moving on to the school age. So this is conversational samples. There's, again, that database goes from 2.9 to 13.3. So this is going to target the discourse skills. So you're looking at things like turn taking, topic initiation, and can they maintain and stay on topic? If there's a breakdown, can they fix it and repair it? And then also, are they asking questions and can they answer questions appropriately? Is there any spontaneity to their conversational skills? And it also assesses their ability to be a really good listener, make sure that they're listening. If the clinician's asking questions or commenting, are they engaged? Limiting interruptions, and again, being on a relevant topic. Conversation samples, what you want to do initially is kind of establish rapport the first few minutes. So sometimes if we have longer samples, we might start the transcription maybe 5 minutes in. If the student was a little bit shy at first and then they warm up, you can always do that. So make sure you're establishing pretty good rapport. Ideally, you want to get 50 utterances. That's all we need. And there should kind of be, questions and answers should look more like open-ended questions and age appropriate. We don't want to do yes/no questions because you'll get a yes or a no. Most times, it's a one-word response and then you've got nothing. And you also want to avoid questions that may lead to narratives. So, you watch TV, what show did you watch? And then all of a sudden the child is telling you about their favorite episode of Paw Patrol, and that's actually more of a narrative. So again, we want to stick to open-ended questions that they can have a response to, but don't lead to narratives. So some topics that I like to use, kids really love talking about their pets. There's lots of open-ended questions. If you're talking about a dog, I might say something like, well, how do you take care of a dog? Who has to take care of the dog? And then we've got a little bit of volume and topic that we can discuss there. Holidays, they're great because they're in the past and they're in the future, so you kind of can get a sense of that. And any sort of classroom activities, things that are going on. There's usually something fun happening in the classroom at school. Family activities. Are they going on any trips? Are they doing anything fun like making cookies with their parent or anything like that? And then also if we kind of use like I statements, that kind of helps eliminate the questions. Like, I wonder how you take care of your dog. I wonder what that was like. And then a lot of times that's a good opener and they want to tell you more about that. So those are just some tips for how to not have it be a yes and no question, answer, quiz type of conversation. We'll move on to the narrative story retells. So this works with the SLP reading the story. There's either, if you get the kits that we sell, you don't have to, but it comes with 2 copies. One book has the text in it, and the other copy of the same story has the text taped up. So the student would listen to the story, and then you hand them the book with the text covered, and then they use their own words to retell the story. So that can be a nice way if you're working with school-age children to kind of hook in, figure out how they're doing with those narrative skills that are just an essential skill in school. There's a different story for each grade. So this is where it's really important to make sure you're collecting the right story. So kindergarten and first grade is Frog, Where Are You? So that's actually a wordless picture book. There's a script that comes with that. Second grade is Pookins Gets Her Way. Third grade is A Porcupine Named Fluffy. And then for 4th, 5th, and 6th, it's Dr. DeSoto. So the books get more complex and they're more age appropriate as you go up in age. So you just really want to make sure that you're using the correct book. We also have Bloom's taxonomy based questions, so that can give you a good sense of their understanding of the story. So those questions go in like a hierarchy of critical thinking. So it's like remembering and understanding and analyzing, and then can they create things, answer a creative question. The narrative scoring scheme is an additional analysis that looks at the structure and content. So it looks at things like their introduction, cohesion, referencing, are they using mental states, all those narrative attributes that we're analyzing. And that can be really great for figuring out sometimes like MLU, a number of different words, like the measures look great, but the narrative was just not that great. They're struggling. So that can be another data point. And we also have the subordination index. So subordination index looks at clausal density. It's essentially counting the number of clauses per utterance. So you really get a lot of bang for your buck on the narrative story retells because you take one sample and then you get just a plethora of information in addition to straight up language measures. Another elicitation is the expository sample. So this is for your older kids. This is grade 5, 6, 7. And what this is they are going to pick out their favorite game or sport, and then they're asked to explain it as if they're explaining it to a foreign exchange student who's never been to our country and never seen whatever game they might pick, football, before. And then they have this planning sheet that they fill out for a few minutes. And then you encourage them to talk for about 5 minutes, and then they use the planning sheet to kind of guide their expository. So this can be pretty fun and motivating for those older kids who are really passionate about a game or sport. They're interested in telling you all about it. And then we also have the expository scoring scheme, similar to the narrative scoring scheme, but tailored for expository samples where you can measure kind of the structure and content. Did they cover all the topics adequately? And the subordination index as well. We also have the narrative student select story. So this is very much student generated. So they are prompted to tell about a favorite book, TV show, or movie. There's not a specific protocol to follow, and you want to retell a familiar story as like Goldilocks, kind of those nursery rhymes if you're working with younger students. And this is for grades K, 1, 2, 3, and then 5 and 7. So they get to select the story that they're telling. So that can be kind of fun too. You just never know what you're going to get sometimes when they're telling you about their favorite TV show or book. If you are administering the Test of Narrative Language by Ron Gillum and Pearson, we have those samples in the SALT database, so that can be kind of nice. So you want to follow the protocol for the test administration, of course, and there's retells of stories with the singular picture cards, for example. So what you can do, there's the 3 stories, there's the McDonald's, Late for School, and Aliens. You can either compare McDonald's to McDonald's, or you can select all 3 of those. So if you are administering the TNL, we have the databases for those language samples. And that has a wide span. That is PK through 8th grade. This is a quick snapshot. This is on our webpage and so forth. It's just kind of breaking it down by grade level and what elicitation protocol that you should be doing. Again, just reiterating the point to make sure that you're collecting something that's age appropriate. So approach it from what grade are they in first. Go by grade, and then go by what do I want to answer clinically? What would be the best fit for the language sample to answer my clinical questions considering the student's grade. We also have the elicitation kit that's available on our webpage. Just a quick snapshot of what that would look like. So it comes in, everything's all bundled and ready to go for you. So you can kind of get this and start collecting your samples. So they're all in a kit. So this has all the protocols for play, narrative story retells. You have all the books and the comprehension questions and the conversation, the TNL protocol, expository with the expository planning sheets included. The comprehension questions are also included in that. So if you're interested, go ahead and look under products at our website for more information on that. Okay, well, if you have any questions, please feel free to contact us. We're always here to help, and we love to hear from you guys. Thanks for listening.